The night in the abandoned hospital was unnervingly silent. The corridors stretched like a cold labyrinth that hadn't felt footsteps for months, maybe years. The walls, stained and cracked, seemed to breathe shadows that moved on their own. David, sitting in the security room, stared at the pale, flickering monitors, his eyes tracing the dark corners of the hallways. Every step's echo in his mind felt like whispers from the void, filling him with a deep, instinctive dread. The trembling light only illuminated half the room, leaving sinister darkness in every corner. A chill ran down David's shoulders, and with each breath his hair stood on end. The emptiness seemed alive, almost conscious. He could hear his own heartbeat in the oppressive quiet, every thump amplifying the sensation that the building itself was watching him. The hum of the monitors, combined with the elongated shadows stretching down the hallways, consumed David's focus. Cold drafts and faint metallic squeaks acted as silent alarms in his brain. The silence whispered that something was aware, waiting and lurking just beyond the edges of perception. One of the monitors suddenly scrambled and flickered. An old room's door creaked open by itself. It had been years since anyone had entered, yet the room smelled of dust and decay. On the bed, a shadow twitched as if someone had just risen. David's chest tightened, his skin prickling with terror. His eyes refused to leave the screen, every second stretching the fear inside him further. The silhouette seemed to silently announce its presence, making the air heavy, whispering, "I see you. I'm watching you." Each breath David took made his heart race faster, his feet rooted as if nailed to the floor. The image seeped into the room, invisible dread radiating from the screen. The old door's faint groan seemed like the creature's voice, chilling David to the bone. The cold draft sneaking in through broken vents, combined with the faint metallic echoes, sharpened the terror in his mind. David's rational thoughts clashed with instinctual fear. Every moment, the shadow became slightly more tangible, as if feeding on his rising panic, turning the room itself into a cage of imminent danger. Against his instincts, David stepped into the room. Dust hung thickly in the air. The long unused medical equipment lay scattered, rusted and broken. Yet the bed was rumpled as if someone had just left. Every step he took echoed loudly, breaking the oppressive silence. He scanned every corner but saw no one. Still, he could feel it. Someone was watching him, breath brushing the back of his neck. The room was alive, each inhalation intensifying the fear. Rusted tools, shattered glass, and dirty sheets hid a darkness that pulsed subtly. Each breath seemed to draw the room closer to him, constricting and tangible. Cracks in the walls, missing ceiling panels, and shadows dancing in the corners all seemed to observe him. The darkness breathed around him, recording every tiny movement. David's heart pounded violently. His breaths came in shallow, terrified gasps. Every passing second made the darkness grow nearer, threatening to engulf him entirely. When David returned, his blood ran cold. One monitor displayed the room he had just entered, and a silhouette was standing there. Slowly, it lifted its head and turned toward the camera. No one was physically there, yet the presence felt terrifyingly real. Each breath David took made him shiver. His eyes couldn't leave the screen. The faceless shadow seemed alive, filled with an oppressive darkness, staring directly at him. Rational thought waged war with instinct. This is real, and it's dangerous. His body froze, unable to act, and the room's shadows felt as though they had become extensions of the figure's will. With every passing second, the shadow's form became more distinct, suffusing the room with an encroaching dread. David's heart raced, his hairs stood on end, and his hands shook. The security room no longer felt like a refuge. It had become a trap. David held his breath. The silhouette on the monitor had vanished, yet the angle of the camera revealed something terrifying. A dark figure lurking just behind the security room door. It stood perfectly still, a silent predator, sending chills racing down his spine. He could feel its presence pressing against him, freezing his limbs as if invisible chains bound him to the spot. The figure's lack of movement made it more menacing. Its very stillness seemed deliberate, a predator savoring its prey's fear. Each second stretched infinitely as David's mind screamed at him to run, yet his body betrayed him, refusing to obey. The air thickened around him, icy and suffocating, as if the darkness itself were breathing him in. David's eyes darted nervously, trying to detect a sign of life, but there was nothing. Only oppressive shadow and the faintest sound of its invisible breath. The figure's presence permeated the room, infiltrating every corner, growing stronger with his rising panic. There was no escape. The room had become a trap, orchestrated by the unseen terror. When David turned, no one was there. Yet the door began to close slowly of its own accord. The metal screeched in protest, and a freezing breeze slithered down his neck. It was as if invisible hands were pushing it, and the air turned dense and suffocating. His chest tightened, heart pounding so fast he feared it might stop. The silence was not empty. It was waiting, thick with malevolence. The cold felt alive, brushing over his shoulders and clinging to his skin. Every step he wanted to take seemed impossible. His body refused to respond. The oppressive darkness pressed against him, growing heavier as the door inched closer. Every faint creak of the hinges felt like the sound of an unseen predator advancing. David's eyes widened, fixated on the closing door. The room's shadows writhed, the unseen presence shaping the darkness to its will. Each heartbeat became a drum of terror, echoing off the walls as he realized he was utterly trapped. A marionette in the hands of something far older and darker than he could comprehend. A scratching noise echoed from the ceiling. It resembled footsteps, but unnaturally fast and light, as if something was crawling just above the panels. The tiles trembled slightly, betraying the movement of something unseen. David's gaze snapped upwards. Shadows twisted and writhed in the dim light, forming shapes that shouldn't exist. The room's atmosphere thickened, the silence filled with anticipation. His heart thumped violently in his chest, each beat a deafening echo. The unseen creature above seemed aware of his fear, feeding on it, its presence growing with every shiver that ran down his spine. Every tinkle of falling dust sounded like a warning from some malevolent being. David spun, trying to locate an escape, but the room offered no refuge. Darkness pressed closer, wrapping him in a suffocating grip. He felt the ceiling tremble again, as if the creature above was ready to descend, turning his environment into a nightmare he could neither flee nor ignore. One monitor flickered to life on its own. The angle had changed, showing the ceiling of the security room. A panel began to open, revealing a pair of corrupted, glowing eyes staring down at David. They weren't human. They were malevolent, ancient, and sentient. Each second, their gaze sank deeper into his soul, a cold and inescapable terror. David's hands trembled as he stared. He could not look away, nor could he comprehend the intelligence behind those eyes. The darkness seemed to control every corner of the room, bending reality as if it were alive and feeding on his panic. He felt powerless, every shadow a potential limb of the entity above. With each passing second, the eyes grew more distinct, more malevolent. David's breathing became shallow, heart racing uncontrollably. The room's dim lights flickered, casting distorted shadows that merged with the creature's presence. There was no escape, only the inescapable gaze of a predator that had been waiting for him. The ceiling panel collapsed completely. Darkness rushed into the room like a living thing. Lights flickered violently, revealing glimpses of a faceless, twisted form moving closer to David with each flash. 1. Darkness. 2. Closer. 3. Just behind his neck. His heart raced, sweat-drenched, every nerve screaming in terror. David tried to scream, but the air felt thick, compressing his chest. Each flicker of light revealed the creature's deformities. Elongated limbs, distorted posture, faceless horror. Darkness pooled at his feet, consuming everything, and the entity advanced, relentless, almost sentient in its pursuit. Every pulse of the strobing light etched fear deeper into his mind. He was frozen, his body unresponsive as the shadow closed in. Time and space had ceased. All that existed was the advancing darkness and his unrelenting dread. When the last flash of light came, the creature was at his face. Faceless, only a void where features should have been. Its deep, wet rasp filled the room. David screamed, and all monitors abruptly shut off. By morning, the security room was empty. Yet one screen remained frozen. And in the frozen image, the shadow still stood behind him, watching, breathing, waiting. The darkness had fully claimed the room, the air thick with oppression. The frozen monitor showed no human figure, yet the shadow lingered, feeding on fear, existing beyond the bounds of life. Its presence was complete, its power undeniable, and David's essence seemed trapped in its grasp, leaving the room as a monument to horror. All went silent. Only the frozen monitor remained, an eternal testament to the terror that had unfolded. David's presence, captured and consumed by the darkness, haunted the room, a warning to anyone who might dare enter the observation room after him.